Hey guys, what's going on? It's Broken Nose Gaming here again. Back to normal. My internet works, the computer works. Well, it's never been broken, but everything's about as normal as it can be for me. So, as promised, I'm going to continue my World of Tanks videos, and the very next tank we're going to be doing is the Panther, which is what I hinted at anyway at the previous video. I said I was going to go ahead and pick it up. Yes, the Panzer V Panther. Now, as you can see, this is the fully upgraded version using the big old 75mm L100 and the upgraded turret, the Schmal term, narrow, very tough turret. And I actually like it a lot better in Blitz than I did in World of Tanks. In the PC version, I considered playing the Panther a chore. Just something I had to do to move up to the Panther 2. But in Blitz, there's some nice adjustments that make the tank a little bit easier to play or a little bit more comfortable to play versus the PC version. And even though it has a rather low alpha gun, it still manages to pull its own weight in Tier 7 or, Tier 8 or, stomping on Tier 6s. But let me go ahead and I'll bring up some stats like I've done in the past. Let's take a look here. So up on the screen should be our standard previous style green, orange, and red. Green being that Blitz version's better, orange they're equal, red the PC version's better. So if we look right away at the DPM of this tank versus the PC version, you'll see it's slightly better. And these are all stock. There's no equipment items or anything like that on there, or provisions making the stats different. This is a stock for stock comparison. And as I said, the DPM's already better on the Blitz version, albeit it's only by like maybe 100 or so, it's still better. The penetration is the same, both having 198, but the reload time and the rate of fire is better on the PC version than the Blitz version. So, how does one have better DPM when your reload and rate of fire is worse than the PC version? Well, that comes up to the damage. Instead of a 135 average damage, you're looking at 160. So it's not a huge jump in DPM, but it makes up for it in terms of that rate of fire and reload time nerf, essentially, compared between the two. The aim time is identical on both the PC version and the Blitz version. One interesting thing here, and it's not by a whole lot, but the dispersion, at least stock here, is a little bit better than the PC version at 0.307 versus just the 0.31. In terms of dispersion on movement and rotation, the Blitz version is far better than the PC version, being 0.13 in both aspects, where here we're looking at either 0.17 or 0.15 depending on what the tank's doing. But the PC version has a better gun depression and gun elevation. I don't care a whole lot about gun elevation. It's only really if I'm going to be shooting upwards. I don't do that a lot, but the 6 degrees of gun depression versus the 8 degrees does make a difference. I've been in several situations where even if I'm off to the side and trying to get the gun depression going, it's just not enough. Sometimes I have to kind of get my tank into a weirder position to try and get the gun to just go down just that much. Other times I just fire and hope that even though I'm not perfectly lined up, the dispersion maybe will go wrong and it'll hit the tank. But the gun depression does make a big difference in play versus the PC version and the Blitz version. In terms of its speed, you're looking, it's very identical. It's 55 forwards, 20 backwards. They both have the same amount of engine power at their top loadouts, which is 700. But you'll notice that the power to weight ratio is slightly better on the Blitz version versus the PC version. And that's because if we go on down here to the weight, the Blitz version is slightly, ever so slightly lighter than the PC version. So if you like to ram things, I guess it would be a negative, but honestly, I'd much rather have a lighter tank that goes faster than, especially when you come to a tank like the Panther where it's so big. But when it comes to after the power to weight ratio here, if you look at the terrain resistance, the tank in the Blitz version's slightly worse, and I mean it's not by a whole lot in terms of the first two categories, but the third category, the Blitz version is far superior to the PC version. So when I'm playing in like water, snow, nasty terrain like that, the PC version feels very, very kind of slow and bogged down, but it doesn't feel quite as bad on the Blitz version, which is nice. The camo, again, this seems to be a normal trend where the PC version's camo is actually less than the Blitz version, and I'm actually starting to understand it's probably because the maps are smaller, so in order to maintain that similar detection ratio, maybe the camo has to be bumped up in the Blitz version versus the PC version since the size of the maps are different. That's the only thing I could really come up with, but otherwise the camo is better on the Blitz version than the PC version, is what it is. It's not by a whole lot, maybe like 5 to 6%. But anyways, if you look at the HP, it's only slightly less than the PC version, 1270 versus 1300. So not really like the worst thing in the world, but I mean sometimes that can make the difference between life and death. But the thing that I like, and it's probably the biggest improvement, and probably is one of the reasons why this tank is so much more comfortable to play in the PC version, or I mean in the Blitz version versus the PC version, sorry, is the armor profiles. Now, when it comes to the sides and the rear, they are identical. The turret armor is 60 on the side, 60 on the rear. The whole armor is 50 on the side, 40 on the rear. But if you look at the front end of the tank, you can see the armor is much better on the Blitz version. You're looking at 110 millimeters on the front of the hull at its thickest point, and it's also sloped, so you're going to have even stronger armor. And then if you angle the tank, you'll have even stronger armor. And the front of the turret is 160 millimeters versus 120. So this tank frontally is a lot more just beefy versus the PC version. The PC version is very thin at 85 on the hull, 120 on the turret. While this is probably more realistic, I'm not going to lie, the armor profile in Blitz makes it so much more comfortable to play, in my opinion. So that kind of goes over the stats when it comes between just the PC version and the Blitz version. I am going to take a look at one other thing. If you take a look at the credit coefficient, you'll see it says 90%. So I wanted to look at other Tier 7 mediums and see where the Panther stacks up in terms of earning credits compared to its siblings in the Tier 7 category. And if we take a look here, I have another wonderful little image I'll bring up right now. Now this is just, I basically picked all the Tier 7 tech tree researchable medium tanks out on Blitz right now. So we have the VK3002D, the T43, the T20, the Comet, the Chiri, the T34-1, the Leo, the T34-100, and the P43. Now, if you'll look, green means better, red means worse. So if we look at one thing, you'll notice that compared to all the other credit coefficients, the Panther is going to be the red one because everybody else is green, ranging anywhere from 95% to 100%. So in terms of credit coefficients here, the Panther is actually the lowest out of the entire Tier 7 medium group here in terms of researchables at least. Now, if we go even further, it's even one of the worst enriched credit coefficient tanks as well at 140.44, which only beats out the Leo and the P43. Everything else is far better. So I figured, well, maybe if it has such a low credit coefficient, maybe the repair cost wouldn't be so high. But surprisingly, the repair cost is actually not the highest, but it's still, in terms of its credit coefficient, fairly high at 6.09. The very worst being 7 on the Leo. So I guess that kind of balances out the Leo's 95% coefficient and the you know, 90% on the Panther 1, being it has a higher repair cost. But in all reality, it seems that you have to do the most damage in the Panther 1 to be able to get more credits comparatively to the other tanks and Tier 7 mediums than you see here. So, I mean, that just means you have to put in more work. But the nice thing, at least in my opinion, about the Panther 1 is it's pretty good at putting in work, because when you kind of put the provisions on the tank and get the equipment all set up, I'll go ahead and I'll bring it up here, but take a look at the reload time here. I'm actually putting out 2,500 DPM and almost 2,600, and my reload time is 3.7 seconds. That's not bad at all. I mean, that's a machine gun. And yeah, it's only 160 damage a shot, but I mean, I also have almost 200 millimeters of penetration, which means I'm gonna punch through quite a bit. And my dispersion goes down even further to 0.29. The aiming time also is down to 0.35. I do believe it's identical if we take a look previously. Yeah, the aim time normally is the same at 2.21. That's odd. I think 3.5 is like the complete shrinkage, but the aim time on the Panther PC version and the Blitz version is the same. But even here, with all of the modifications, you get an even better... I mean, this tank's pretty darn powerful once you get down to putting all these provisions and equipment slots on the tank. Now, as normal, I do have some replays, just 3, and that might even change in the future, just down to 2. The biggest reason why I think I'm going to only do 2 in the future is just to try and keep the videos a little bit shorter. And I mean, I'm sure there's way better players out there than me, so I don't need to be out here just showcasing my mediocre play. So going forward, I'll probably only do 2 unless I really end up having some like knockout games here. But anyways, like I said, I got 3 replays here, so we'll go ahead and we'll fire them up for the Panther. We will start with the first one on Mirage. This is a fairly short battle as well, so that's a nice thing, I guess. Now this is a Tier 7 mostly, with a couple Tier 6s, and I'm not a really big fan of this map, but I figured since I was on the side with the beach, I might as well go to the beach, which I know most people really dislike going on the beach, and I can kind of understand that. In my opinion, though, there's some decent cover as long as you kind of work your tank the right way. And this hole right here is one spot. As you can see, there's the gun depression that I'm having an issue with. Luckily, I get the tank to come down, and this M41 is just going to get tore up a little bit. And, I mean, that was fast. I hit the mantlet on the 3001 Porsche, but, I mean, it's basically a Tiger turret, so I'm not super upset. And then suddenly the Skoda T25 comes out of nowhere. I put a shot in him. I spook him enough to where he backs up. 2 tanks fired on me there. I instantly blocked 1,000 damage. And then I picked up another hit somewhere, but I fix everything up. Now somebody's popping shots at me. I don't know who they are. I see the 3001 Porsche. I take another shot at him. But now that I've taken enough hits, I know people know I'm there, so I say, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and move. I don't quite know what tank was hitting me yet. It could have been the SU-152 and the Bergepanther. Those would be my best guesses. And since I see them all the way back there, I'm getting spotted again, but I'm going to go ahead and move up the line now that I've kind of abused that area. Now I see the Bergepanther. He sees me. I do drop some APCR on him. He bounces me, and I get him down on the lower plate. I went back to regular AP for that. I bounce him again, and this is the nice thing about this tank is, I mean, I'm bouncing some good shots here. As a matter of fact, if we take a look, if we zoom out, we'll take a look here and see where I'm bouncing these shots at. And let's take a look here. So I'm bouncing a lot of shots off my hull, and it looks like it's mainly the front of the hull, which at that angle does really give you a good, you know, shot, and it just goes flying up to the side. I do believe I was getting some shots on the turret and the gun as well, but as I said, they're all bouncing, so awesome. Put another shot into him, and that's the neat thing about this tank is every 4 seconds, essentially, you're just putting out, every 3.5 seconds, you're just putting out damage. So the Panther gets taken care of. I see that VK. I decide to finish him off. Well, I attempt to, but he gets taken out. So all that's left now is the SU-152. I managed to bounce his plate. I must have hit that spot in the middle. I finally hit the lower plate, and it's taken care of. So, I mean, that's not a bad match at all. I ended up getting about 1,800 damage in terms of put out, and then I believe I blocked about, I think it was 1,400. So not bad. I get a Confederate. I don't think I destroyed a single tank, but I ended up putting out the second highest amount of damage in terms of the team. So hey, not bad. So let's move on to this one. Now, spoilers, I kind of mess up on where I go on this match, but it's still not a bad match. I end up doing about the same amount of damage as I did in the previous match. So same thing, another mainly Tier 7, Tier 6 match. Now I see everyone taken off that way, except for the Helsing and our T-37, which I think is AFK at the moment. The Helsing seems to really want to go that way, so I figured, well, I'll help him out as much as I can. I don't know what's going on with the T-37. I just assume we're going to be down a player, which is fine. I mean, that seems to be somewhat normal in World of Tanks these days. Now, I decided to do what I think is a big brain move here. And instead of taking the bridge, which everyone would assume you take the bridge, no, I'm going to try and ford the river here until I find out the drop is near vertical. Well, I do it anyway. I almost start drowning my tank. I see a VK-3001, and my tank can't get up the incline. So I try again. Still can't. I feel very silly right now. The tanks are already firing on that VK. I can't do anything to help. I finally get my tank up, and this is kind of the funny part. The VK finally just shows up. It's like he forgot about me. He gets one shot off on me. He hits my ammo rack, and now I've put in about as much damage as he has to me, and now he's gone. The end. But that was a super bad misplay by me. If that VK would have moved faster on me or made better use of that situation, I would have been in trouble. Oh, and there's our T-37 friend, so he's back and he's on, and he's going up that hill. After the experience that I just had, I have a very strong feeling that climbing hills would not be the move for me in this match, so I decide not to. Now, the other tanks are kind of engaging on the front now. I end up coming up behind the tanks. Here's an M41. He sees me. I put another shot into him. He bounces me. And let's just take a look where he bounced me real quick. Let's take a look here. Looks like, and he bounced me right on that upper plate. Just bounced right off. That 110 millimeters of angled armor, man. It's super useful. So he bounces a shot. I get another shot into him. I get a little... He bounces another shot. And now I'm kind of paying attention to where he's going. He bounces another shot. So let's take a look again. How many shots has he put into my tank, and where have they all gone? It looks... Oh, it doesn't even show where they've gone at this point, but I'm going to assume he's kept trying to shoot the very front upper plate of the tank, which is not where you'd want to go, but... Anyways, I put another shot into him. He finally pens me. Now, he's getting away from me. I know he's going to try and circle me because he's more maneuverable than me. And now I start firing from the hip, which I never ever recommend doing. He bounces me again. And it looks like my T-37 buddy helped me out and finished him off for me. And then I run into a rock. Yeah, there's my T-37 buddy. So, you know, that guy, super helpful. He did help me out quite a bit because I was worried that M41 was going to be able to circle me and get me taken care of. Luckily, it didn't happen. And that T-37 finished him off. Now, the T-37 decides to go, I think, after the Mill, but I believe there was an SU-152 back there, so he lost. He's gone. Now, I continue to be a little bit brash and unsmart here and decide that I can probably take this ARL-44, which has already put one shot into me. I managed to put in one, and I'm trying to circle him. He gets me again, so he's put in way more damage to me than I've put in damage to him. So I'm worried at this point. I think I've made a bad misplay. I'm still putting damage into him, but not nearly as much. Now, he finally bounces, and where does he bounce? He bounces, it looks like off of my turret, maybe? Yeah, it looks like it. Or off the front of the tank again, one of the two. So I lucked out. And everybody else focuses him, saves my rear end. Whew. Otherwise, I would have been done. So all that's left is the SU-152. Everyone's trying to get him. I figure I can get a shot on him, but I'm too slow. Still, I end up with a total of 1894 in damage, which isn't bad. I definitely could have done better. I usually average a little bit higher damage per game in this tank, but still, I end up in second place compared to the rest of my tanks, so not bad. And I do have one final video replay here, and we'll go ahead and load it up. It's going to be on Faust. And again, I really didn't get many Tier 8 battles when I did these replays, so I'm surprised. But this is another it's a pretty strong matchup. I'm not really seeing... I think maybe the only downside is their tank destroyer is one tier lower than ours. Other than that, not a big deal. Anyways, so since I'm a medium, even though I'm not the fastest medium in the world, I still want to try and get over to where their spawn is at. I have a couple other tanks that decide to follow me, a Sherman EZ-8 and a T-34-100. And the rest of the tanks, as I would assume they go across that bridge over on the other side where they usually will meet the other heavies. But I figure I'm going to go this way, because that's what I always do in my smaller, faster, medium, and light tanks. And I get up to the top, and at first I'm actually really surprised, because I figured somebody would beat me up here. So I'm cautious. I think maybe they're hiding in the bush over here, or they're hiding in the dip. So I kind of wait just a second, see if I have my backup. I have my support, so I go ahead and I start moving up again. I don't see anyone. Nobody's hiding down there to ambush. Nobody lights up over on the hill off to the right, so I go ahead and I push forward. I'm assuming everyone has gone the other way entirely, and I'm sort of right. I find a Panther out on its own. It's got its 88mm, and he dirt shots it. I put another one into him. Now everyone seems to be getting in on it. And I notice a Dicker Max. Now, at first I thought the Dicker Max was going to be a bigger issue. I noticed he's AFK, so I take two shots, I bounce, and I go ahead and just continue on my way, because I figured the M41 is going to be a bigger thing to worry about. They're more maneuverable, and he's not AFK. So I box him in, I start shooting from the hip again, which sometimes doesn't work very well, but I managed to track him, and I keep him right there. And I think he fired HE at me, I don't know. But I put a shot into him, and then the T-34-100 behind me helps me out. I'm already at 1,300 damage, so I'm not... that's not bad so far, and only 2 tanks are down. 3 tanks are down. They finally get that 88mm Panther. Now I see an AC-4 Sentinel. I see a Tiger 1. So I'm assuming all the tanks are going to be on that side. The heavies are sort of kind of putting up a wall, and they're kind of blocking and boxing everyone on that side near the enemy spawn. So we're kind of circling these guys. Everyone seems to be going up the top. I figure I'm going to go down this way, and I'm assuming I'll run into the Tiger. I actually run into the Sentinel first, and then I see the Tiger. Now here's where I'm basically at my maximum gun depression, and I just put it into him anyway. I put 2 shots into the Tiger. Now the Sentinel, same thing. I'm at my max. I still managed to put a shot into him. So now they both notice me. So now I'm going to have a 2-on-1 situation. But I bounced that shot. And then I figure, wait, why am I stopping? I can just ram him. take him. Now it's just going to be me and the Tiger. I repair my gun, and I figure me versus the Tiger, I can probably take this Tiger. Now, he's fighting the Tiger Porsche. I back into him, and I stop him from retreating. So now he has to really be worried about what's going on to him. He's got 2 tanks in the front, 1 tank in the back, and I'm just pestering him non-stop. No stopping on this. And with 3 tanks surrounding him, there's not a whole lot he can do. And I actually end up with over 3,000 damage on this game. So if we take a look, I by and far did the most damage in terms of my team. And if we look into a detailed, let's take a look here. So I only really took out, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, I only dealt 5 tanks damage, but I did almost 1,200 to the Tiger, did about 800 to the Bulldog. I only did about 200 to the... Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm looking at it backwards. No, I had it right. I had it right. So for the Tiger, yeah, I only did about 1,200 damage. Sentinel, I only did about 550 damage. Bulldog, I only did about 724 damage. The Dicker Max, I only did about 169, but I did about 731 spotting damage. And I only did about 460 damage to the Panther, and then spotted another 245. So that was probably my best game out of this session that I've done. I do believe I have 1 screenshot from when I mastered the tank, and I can throw that up here if I have it. That's probably the best I've ever done on this tank. But overall, this is a good tank. I really do like the Panther. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Final thoughts. The Panther in Blitz, I like it. Good tank. Very fast rate of fire. Armor, especially in the front, really good if you angle it. Even with the turret, very strong. So as long as you keep yourself... I wouldn't brawl with the tank per se, unless you're brawling and bullying very, tier 6 tanks that are light and small. Otherwise, try and stay at range and just kind of pick shots off and hope they don't focus on you. But yeah, I really like this tank. Good tank. Until then, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you later. Take it easy.